The Ring makes use of a simple yet terrifying concept, that being a cursed videotape, and stretches it into one of the most influential horror films of the early 2000s, blending psychological dread with supernatural mystery. And without further ado, let us commence with a summary. Though before I do so, if you would subscribe to the channel, that'd be very much appreciated, as it allows you to support me to continue to grow and cover more films just like this. The film opens not with an explosive scare, but with a quiet, almost mundane conversation that slowly tightens into something suffocating. Two teenage girls sit in a softly lit suburban bedroom during a stormy evening. The kind of setting that feels ordinary, yet carries an undercurrent of unease. They talk about school, relationships, and eventually drift toward an urban legend that has been circulating among their peers. According to the rumor, there exists a mysterious videotape. Anyone who watches it receives a phone call immediately afterward. A voice on the other end whispers that they have 7 days to live. After the 7th day, they die. At first, the conversation is playful. One of the girls laughs it off, dismissing it as another overblown campfire story. But the tone subtly shifts when the girl Katie admits something unsettling. She and 3 friends watched a strange videotape exactly 7 days ago while staying at a cabin in the mountains. She tries to maintain composure, insisting it was probably nothing, yet her body language betrays her. There's tension in her voice, an anxious glance toward the television across the room. The atmosphere thickens when the light flickers, as strange noises echo from the downstairs. The television turns on by itself, static crackling in the silence. The girls freeze. One ventures into the hallway to investigate. The camera lingers on empty spaces, dark corners, doorways that seem to conceal something just out of sight. Moments later, Katie is alone in the house. Objects shift unnaturally, the screen distorts, the sequence ends with a horrifying cut. Katie is found dead, her face twisted in a grotesque expression of terror, her body lifeless in a way that defies a natural explanation. The curse is not merely a story, it's real. The narrative then transitions to Rachel Keller, a journalist and Katie's aunt. Rachel is practical, composed, and rational to a fault. She attends Katie's funeral and notices a hushed fear among the teenagers present. Another one of her 4 friends who watched the tape has also died under similarly bizarre conditions. The pattern is undeniable. As a reporter, Rachel's instincts compel her to investigate, even if she does not yet believe in the supernatural explanation. Rachel interviews Katie's friends and learns about the cabin in the woods, where the tape was viewed. The setting becomes increasingly bleak as she drives toward the isolated inn, rain pouring relentlessly against the windshield. The film's visual palette is cold and desaturated, drenched in grays and blues, reinforcing the persistent motif of water and decay. Inside the cabin, Rachel searches methodically. On a shelf near the television sits an unmarked VHS tape. There is no label, no distinguishing feature. It appears ordinary. Against her better judgment, but driven by curiosity and professional obligation, Rachel inserts a tape into a player and sits down to watch. What follows is one of the most unnerving sequences in modern horror. The tape is not a narrative in the traditional sense. It is a rapid montage of fragmented, surreal images. As well standing alone in a field, a ladder propped against an unseen structure, a woman brushing her long black hair before a mirror, a chair spinning slowly, writhing maggots, a tree engulfed in flames, a distorted face pressed close to the camera, water dripping in impossible spaces. The imagery feels symbolic yet inaccessible, as though it encodes a message beyond immediate comprehension. The tape ends abruptly in a blast of static. The screen goes dark, then the phone rings. Rachel hesitates before answering. On the other end, a voice that sounds a lot like a child's, but carries something ancient and hollow, whispers, 7 days. The line disconnects. For the first time, Rachel's skepticism fades. She attempts to rationalize what just happened, perhaps attributing it to an elaborate prank. Yet an unmistakable dread begins to settle over her. Before leaving the cabin, she instinctively makes a copy of the tape, a decision that will later prove crucial. Rachel seeks out Noah, her estranged partner and the father of her young son, Aiden. Noah works with video equipment and possesses the technical knowledge to analyze the tape. Initially dismissive, he becomes unsettled after watching it himself. He too receives a phone call. The clock begins ticking for both of them. Together, Rachel and Noah dissect the footage frame by frame. They discover that the images are not random, there are hidden clues embedded within them. Brief flashes of location, reflections in mirrors, distorted overlays, they reveal the names and places when enhanced. Rachel notices that certain shots resemble real environments rather than staged ones. Meanwhile, Aiden begins behaving strangely. He draws a picture of a girl with long dark hair covering her face. He speaks cryptically about someone who does not want to be held. Water seeps inexplicably into a house. The line between the tape's world and reality appears increasingly fragile. Rachel's investigation leads her to a Morgan family, former owners of a ranch on Moseco Island. The Morgans adopted a young girl named Samara under mysterious circumstances. Reports indicate that after Samara's arrival, the family's horses became violently disturbed. They would panic at her presence, injure themselves, even hurl their bodies against the stable doors in a frenzy. Rachel travels to the island to interview Richard Morgan, Samara's adoptive father, now living in isolation. He provides little clarity, offering a cryptic remark and hostility. It is through archived medical records and conversations with locals that Rachel learns more about Samara's ability. Samara possessed a form of psychic projection. She could imprint horrific images directly into the minds of others. These images were relentless, intrusive, and psychologically devastating. Samara's adopted mother deteriorated rapidly under this assault. She sought psychiatric help, claiming her daughter would not stop showing her terrible things. Eventually, Anna took her own life by leaping from a cliff, leaving behind a note that implied Samara was not meant to be a mother's child. As Rachel pieces the story together, the timelines align with the tape's structure. The 7-day countdown mirrors Samara's own final days. Rachel discovers that Samara was thrown into a well and left there. Shockingly, she did not die instantly. She survived in the darkness for 7 days, screaming before succumbing to dehydration and exposure. Realizing the cabin sits directly above a buried well, Rachel returns with Noah. They uncover the sealed opening beneath her floorboards. Rachel descends alone into the suffocating darkness, the walls slick with moisture. The well feels like a grave suspended in time. At the bottom, she discovers Samara's remains. In an emotionally charged moment, Rachel cradles her skeletal body, offering words of comfort. She believes she's providing the closure Samara never received. Authorities later recover the remains, and Samara is given a proper burial. Rachel's 7th day passes without incident. She breathes in relief. Perhaps the curse has been broken. However, this fragile hope collapses when Noah receives his 7th day. Alone in his apartment, he senses something is wrong. The television flickers to life, filling the room with static. Water pools beneath the screen. The air grows heavy. The image of a well appears on the television. Then Samara emerges. She crawls towards the screen from within the recorded image, her movements jerky and unnatural. She presses against the glass, then she crosses through it, stepping into reality. The boundary between technology and physical space dissolves. Noah stands frozen as Samara advances. The screen cuts to black. Noah is later discovered dead, his face locked in that same horrific expression. Rachel is devastated, but also enlightened. She realizes that retrieving Samara's body did not free her. Samara was never seeking peace. The curse was not a plea for rescue. Rachel survives because she made a copy of the tape. She passed it on to Noah. The curse requires replication. It spreads like a virus through media consumption. The only way to survive it is to show the tape to someone else. In the film's final moments, Rachel helps Aiden create another copy. He asks what will happen to the next person who watches it. Rachel hesitates, unable to offer reassurance. Her silence confirms the grim truth. Survival demands moral compromise. Now that the summary is out of the way, allow me to say what I liked about the film and what I wasn't the biggest fan of. One of the film's strongest aspects is atmosphere. It establishes a tone of dread through its muted color palette and persistent presence of water, rain leaks, and damp environments, giving each scene a subtle sense of unease. Unlike many horror films that rely on jump scares, this movie builds tension gradually, creating a psychological dread that lingers long after the scene ends. The combination of visual mood, sound design, and quiet suspense keeps the audience on edge throughout. The tape itself is deeply unsettling, composed of fragmented and symbolic imagery: a well, a spinning chair, fire, and the girl with long black hair. Its abstract nature forces viewers to interpret the images, heightening tension and keeping them actively engaged. The performances in the film are another highlight. The protagonist is grounded and relatable, her reactions to danger and the supernatural feeling authentic. The supporting characters, including the estranged partner and young son, add emotional weight and personal stakes. This ensures the horror is not just external, but connected to family and relationships, which strengthens the narrative. As for disadvantages, the film occasionally suffers from pacing issues. The investigative segments can also feel slow, which may frustrate viewers expecting continuous scares. And some aspects of Samara's powers remain vague, leaving questions unanswered, though this also contributes to the film's mystery, though it may be seen as a disadvantage in regards to ambiguity. Overall, the film excels through atmosphere, concept, performance, and careful suspense, making it a memorable and influential modern horror movie. Thus, The Ring stands out as one of the most influential horror remakes of its era, reshaping how Western audiences review Japanese horror adaptations, delivering imagery that has remained embedded in pop culture. It is not flawless, but is undeniably effective, which is why I would give the film a 6 out of 10. And with that, today's video concludes, and I wish you all a good night.